Hi guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome back to another First Division review show. And we'll start off with probably the worst game of the weekend. Philip, we finished BRAY Wanderers 0, Cork City 0 at the Carlisle grounds. The third time this season they've drawn against each other as well, having drawn 0-0 and 2-2 previously. But wasn't a game for the purists, I have to say. I think Brian Maher did make one good save in the match, to be fair. But again, it's one of those, to be honest with you, filtering out at the end of the season type games, wasn't it, really, more or less?
Yeah, let's get it done, and that's it. Like, that's basically what the game was. I have to say, very poor quality. You know, I just thought no one looked up for it, and yeah, it was strange because I thought like Cork may have had a point to prove. You know, especially one of the teams above them in the division, but very little in the game. Both sides done very little. You know, it was just one of those games where you knew nothing was going to happen. Like, it's strange, you know, that like obviously there's games like that are going to happen towards the end of the season, but it's just very disappointing when you see it. There's no intent. No one's going out with intent. Look, both sets of players will probably say that's not the case, and they did go out to win the game, but it just didn't seem like that. It didn't come across like that, you know. I watched little snippets of it, and to be honest with you, there was very little chances in the snippets that I did look at. Barring the save you mentioned, there was a couple of chances. I think there was a free header on the back post for BRAY, but I can't even think of chances off the top of my head now as to who and what happened, like, because it was that poor of a game. Not one that will live long in the memory, that's for sure. So it'll be interesting now to see if this is going to be a regular thing with the league. You know, there's a couple of games left, obviously, but hopefully it's not something that's too persistent.
Yeah, I just thought for BRAY's point of view, probably worse because it was there for the taking, I think, and they're in a position where they could do with the extra 2 points just to make sure, because ATHLONE Town obviously beat Cabinteely 2-1, doing on 58 minutes, Feeney and Aishi, but a lovely goal from Curtis Byrne actually deep in the injury time. It just puts ATHLONE 6 points behind BRAY. There's 9 points available. So it just leaves the debate slightly open there, Philip, at the moment, doesn't it, with 3 games to go?
Yeah, you're struggling. I think you're pulling at straws there, like, being honest with you. Realistically, it's all over. But look, I suppose stranger things have happened, like in football, that's for sure. But I just think that the quality that ATHLONE have isn't going to get them 9 out of 9 points, you know, or 7 out of 9, and then a calamity for BRAY. I don't think that's even possible, to be honest with you. I have to say, though, Keith, this was one of the better games of the weekend in the First Division for sure. Both sides looked like they really wanted to go for it, you know. And it just seemed like, I'll be honest with you, I thought CABO were, I don't think 2-1 didn't flatter ATHLONE. I thought, you know, I thought they deserved the game, you know, in terms of like the way they went about it. CABO just, again, they did have spells in the game, Keith, you know, where they were in it and they were up for it, and I just think that quality is missing. You know, we've mentioned it so many times, time and time again. Cabinteely just do not have the quality to win games. Football, simple as that. Especially in midfield and a centre forward that's going to take chances. I know they scored, Keith, but they're probably still the lowest scoring club in the First Division, if I could probably say that. Or if not, I'm pretty confident they're down there.
They're down there, second,
yeah, second lowest scorers in the division, and I think that's shown. And you know, the way things were with CABO, maybe a year or two ago, you probably said, right, 1 goal is probably enough, because defensively they were quite good for a spell. There was a little spell where they were quite good defensively, but at the moment they're just shipping too many goals, and that's the case here. And as I said, ATHLONE deserved to win the game, but Cabinteely definitely had their chances in the game, you know.
Yeah, it just gives ATHLONE a chance, I think. Finished Cove Ramblers 0, Galway 1, and Keishin after 27 minutes, but a bit of ill discipline coming in late in the game for Cove. A bit of ill discipline coming late in the game for Cove as well, with a couple of sendings off, Philip, and it just kind of highlights where they're at the minute. They're only a point ahead of Wexford. We'll get on to them later as well, but they are the lowest scorers of the league, Cove, and look, it's hard to be critical of Cove, I'll be honest, because it's difficult, because location for a start, the size of the club, which is secondary, which is a second point as well, it made as well. It's hard to get players down there of real quality where they want to progress, but they do great stuff off the pitch. But on the pitch, it's difficult to get the right players in. And I know they did a good season last season, I think they expected themselves to push for a playoff place this season. But I have to say, I kind of expected this from them this season, to be fair. They brought in a lot of players in the Munster Senior League, which is fine. They're not bad players, but that's the level they're kind of looking to be at in terms of recruitment, if you get me. And they're fine. They are good players first division, but it's very hard to progress up the table with the squad they have. Good, honest bunch down there on and off the pitch, but especially the last few weeks, it's really gone bad for them, especially. Like they could finish last in the league ultimately now.
Yeah, to be honest with you, the way Wexford are going at the minute, the past few weeks, and the past couple of months, you could see them leapfrogging them, especially how poor Cork have been. I didn't like the discipline toward the end of the game. Things aren't going well for you, but don't do that. There's a bit of common sense in football, and I don't think the lads used them. I think it was just stupidity more than anything else. It's poor out from. I'll be honest with you, Keith, you made a good point. Well, I thought you made a good point there. You're on the season where you thought that the change was probably a bit of a questionable change, when they went and had a change halfway through the season. And I think it's just shown it's not worked. And I think any progress they made last season is now completely out the window. And it's disappointing though, because, Culver aside, I'd love an away trip down to Cork, being honest with you. I think it'd be a great little trip, but I think where they are in terms of progression and chances of getting back up into the top flight, they're furthest from anyone. Like there's in the next 3 or 4 years, I couldn't even imagine them getting close to the playoffs the way things are going. Stranger things happen in football again. But it's just the way things have been this season as well, in particular, where they thought would push on, and all of a sudden you're going backwards. That can be very demoralising for a club, and it can, again, they were in a position last year where they had a little kind of a niche in the market where they could say, well, the lads that we're bringing in, we can probably say to them, look, we were there last year, and we hope when we get you in, we can get there, and we'll be in there, and I think that's not going to be there next season. I think it's going to be, we're having another build towards a run for the playoffs. Probably won't be this year, probably the following year, because if you try to tell anyone that anything else, it's going to be completely different. People are going to laugh and say, well, you finished nearly bottom of the table last season. How are you expecting to get into the playoffs this year? Whereas last season, that argument was probably pretty compelling. And lads coming in were saying, well, yeah, geez, I fancy this. There's a chance that we could get the extra 4 or 5 points and get in there. And look, we're not going to go. We probably won't go up, but we'll be competitive in it. And it's unfortunate that things went like that, And yeah, you kind of question whereabouts they are, and the game itself was very, very poor. There was very little to even talk about in it, bar the discipline, and it's disappointing from a Cork perspective. But again, a small club, not really much expected of them. So can you blame them?
No, that's the thing as well. It's very difficult for them. But as I say, Galway, just a win for them, and they're in the playoffs now. They're probably going to finish second in the league as well. But Wexford beating UCD 2-1 as well was a big result for Wexford. Doherty Robinson with the goals. Kerrigan scored for UCD, actually. That was his 12th goal of the season. He has 8 assists as well. So he's had a really good season for UCD. But that's a massive result for Wexford. I know UCD's season's probably filtering out a bit, but you couldn't have imagined a few weeks ago that Wexford would be a team of the quality of UCD. And they've got a couple of wins lately, 1 point behind Cove in the table as well. And, it is a carrot. I know people might laugh, but if Wexford were to finish 9th in the league from where they have been all season, it actually would be fairly decent achievement considering where they were. They were 10, 12 points adrift for most of the season. So you have to give them credit for, thinking, not letting see the season out and just keep going. And, they're getting their rewards a little bit now, and something to look forward to next season, because whereas Cove have been kind of going that way, Wexford look like they're going up a little bit,
Yeah, Keith, and look, I suppose, so the thing that you kind of mentioned before, earlier in the season with Wexford, is you can lose a lot of games and then all of a sudden confidence is on the deck. But it's weird with Wexford. It's weird with Wexford, because when they get a hiding, they just seem to forget about it.
It doesn't matter,
it's gone, do you know what I mean? And I've been in teams where things haven't been going well, and you're getting beaten a lot of the time, and all of a sudden everyone's disinterested. No one wants to play and whatever that sort of nonsense that happens comes with it. Like, you know, but they just seem to dust themselves off and come back and roll with the punches, and credit to them. And to be honest with you, it's a great result for them. And I think it's the highlight of the season, if I'm being completely realistic. Like, you know, and I know they had a couple of good performances against other teams in the division, but I just think the quality of UCD as well, I think that puts into context how big of a result it was. And as you said, if they had to finish ninth, by God, what an achievement considering how far back they were and how poor they were playing. You know, I think it would be a big achievement, and it's good to see, because I was like, you don't want to feel sorry for a club, but if anyone feels sorry for it, it has been Wexford this season, like in terms of how things went for them. But they're showing a bit of pride in the club, and look, it's not a big club, it's not a big fan base, but it's nice to see players do that and going out and putting in performances and beating such a big side is a big achievement, you know. And I thought they deserved to win the game, you know. Look, let's be honest, UCD were really strong in the game and had a couple of chances, but whatever UCD threw at Wexford, they just seemed to come back at them, and, you know, just showed a bit of grit and determination. And they were just, I thought a lot, they were probably the second team on the night. They were better overall in what they done when they done it, you know, because UCD just kind of knocked the ball about and dominated, but it was kind of like watching Rovers. You know, they had a few chances, but it was kind of that would come with the possession that you would have, and there was no real intent. You know, I think they thought it was just going to happen for them, and it didn't. And I'm delighted for X because they deserved the result on the night.
Yeah, now we left this one last on purpose. Shelbourne won 3-2 United 0 at Talca Park, point and penalty after 74. I actually tipped Shelbourne to win 1-0 with a late goal, but I thought it'd be later than that. I knew this would be a very scrappy match because Treaty are dogged. Shelbourne knew what was at stake as well, and they've played a couple of times this season. Shelbourne haven't beaten them. They've had 2 draws. Very, very scrappy match. Shelbourne ultimately winning the league, and they'd be delighted to finish it at the first chance they got at, because I find it's annoying when you have to wait the next week and then maybe the next week, even though you know you're going to win it, because then it's an anti-climax almost when you win it. So they done it at the earliest opportunity possible. One defeat all season, 47 goals, second highest in the league behind UCD, 19 conceded. I think that's a big thing as well. Unbelievable even defensively. You know, as I said, scrappy game. Treaty did play their part in it, though. They didn't just, they did try and spoil the party, I have to say. They had a game plan and they were trying to win the game, to be fair to them. They didn't lie down by any means, which was great as well. But Shelbourne did grind it out. Apart from a spell in the first 20 minutes where, the last 20 minutes and a half where Shelbourne had a lot of opportunities. Ty Ryan made a few good saves. It was a shout for a penalty. And Ty Ryan actually dropped the ball in the net and was given as a free out. Now, I think it probably was a free out, to be fair. He looked like he was fouled. But Brendan Clark, to be fair, in the second half made a very good save at 0-0. And if he doesn't save that, I don't think Shelbourne are getting the 2 goals, to be fair. The penalty itself, Shane Farrell was fouled. Shane Farrell actually watches the show. So, hello, Shane. How are you? He got fouled for the penalty. And
one less subscriber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, point and finished it brilliantly, because it took about 2 minutes for him to actually take the penalty. So to have that coolness to step up, and Ty Ryan was funny. I think he kind of stood in the middle of the goal. I think he thought, you know what, he might go cheeky down the middle, but he didn't, and finished it brilliantly. And great atmosphere. I was there at Talca Park. Great atmosphere at Talca Park, and you know, it is great to see Shelbourne back, but now we have to see them stay in the Premier Division, really, don't we?
Yeah, there's no question about it, Keith. They've been, I think, out of both divisions, they've been the best side in a sense, you know, in terms of how they've went about what they've had to do. You know, obviously the task of the first division, the task of the top flight is completely different, but I just think they've been absolutely extraordinary. You know, 1 loss all season, and
almost been flawless, hasn't it? It's not an easy division.
Yeah, and it's not, and it's getting stronger as well, and I think that's what shows it's even a bigger achievement, you know. And like they had problems as well with injuries and players, you know, COVID, etc., and they still persevered. And you know, I think credit to them. You have to tip your hat, you know. A lot of lads have had a really good season with them, but to be honest, I think we needed to expect that as well from Shells with what happened last year. The squad they still have, it was expected, but I didn't think it would be as emphatic, you know, especially off the back of the end of last season, you know, with how poor they were and the goals they were shipping. You kind of thought they would come up, but not in the way they've done it. They've just been absolutely incredible. And it was a good game, Keith. It was a good game, I thought, you know, and I thought that the shout for the other penalty, which wasn't given, I thought was, in my opinion, you know, and look, you can see why it wasn't given, the speed of play and all that sort of things come into it. And, you know, I think one thing we have to mention, Keith, over the past, this week anyways, there's been very little talk of referees in the first division and in this show as well. In the top flight as well. And I think sometimes that can go amiss, you know. And I just thought this was one of the decisions where you can say he got it wrong, but you can see why he didn't give it, you know. But look, as you mentioned, Shells really went for it, and Treaty were quite resilient in the game as well. I thought, to be honest with you, I felt a bit for Treaty. I thought they could have took a point out of the game, you know, without creating too much. I thought they were dog resilient, you know.
So they give away the penalty, they probably would have, to be honest. It's very difficult to see Shelburne score at that point, if I'm honest with you. They were kind of running out of ideas a little bit in the second half as well at that point. And the penalty, it was a pointless foul as well. I think that's the annoying thing from Treaty point of view. It's not as if they were in on goal or there was real serious danger. Like, it was just a pointless foul, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, and like, you know what I mean? You've got cover there, and like, it's frustrating, but I suppose like these things happen in football. It had happened in my own game last week. There's a lad going towards the corner flag, and the lad sticks a foot out and gives away a penalty, and you want to take his bleeding head off, like, because he does it, like, you know. And yeah, look, I suppose for Treaty, if anything, like, I think it showed how good they are defensively this season. This game in particular showed how good they've been defensively. Obviously, a couple of off games where they've shipped too many goals, but in a general consensus, they've been magnificent as well. Keith, you know, take no credit or give as much credit as you can to them, because I don't think anyone expected to finish where they would finish. And look, I suppose if anyone's going to be a threat, I suppose, in the playoffs, it's going to be Treaty off the fact of how good they are defensively, you know. I think the attacking stuff kind of handles itself. They probably don't have the best going forward, but again, it's all about keeping clean sheets and building off clean sheets. And I know probably the clean sheets haven't came as much in the last few weeks, but you can still see how good they are defensively. Things just haven't went their way when it comes to games like this. And I tell you, I fancy them. I really do. I don't know if they'll have enough to get up, but I do fancy them to get into the latter stages of the playoffs and be really, really competitive. And well done to them all down there. And, you know, I have to say, didn't expect it. And the fact we're even talking about them with a possibility of going up, you thought if they could have got into the playoffs, well done, what a season. But we're talking about them actually competing and being competitive and having a good chance. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think they're going to be very hard beat, to be fair. Congratulations to Shelburne. And we leave it there, guys. So subscribe if you're new. Hit your bell notification button so you don't miss an upload. Thanks for watching. And comment below. Let us know what you think. Olé, 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 olé.